Étoile, the monster of Rue Lesseux, the demonic ogre, the underground, and of course, Dr. Satan.
This guy has had, he's done every crime.
Everything.
This guy's
He's amazing.
amazing. There needs to be I cannot believe that there's not a movie about this guy.
I think there's a couple of movies about
Yeah,
him.
I think there was 2 movies about
Yeah,
him.
there's
but
movies,
they didn't
there's
reference
3
House of a
books.
Thousand Corpses. It had to be a nod to this guy when
It reminds me-
when
this
the
guy
bunnies go down to Dr. Satan.
He reminds me of like an H.H. Holmes, where it's like the same thing where people were like, oh, he's charming and cosmopolitan, but you ask him, he's going like, hey, come here, little girl, God, like crying. And it's like, we love his energy. He's got the effervescent life force.
Yeah. And he reminds you of Ted Bundy in that he was into politics. He reminds you.
He was elected.
He reminds you
He's
of
an
John
elected
Wayne
mayor.
Gacy in that he was a well-loved, well-respected member of the
I mean,
community.
I don't know. It seems like he wasn't. He was just more like they were like, well, there's a guy you can go get free drugs from, and he's over there, and it's just him hanging out, going,
Well,
like,
no,
hey,
he
come
was
on
elected.
down,
I mean-
I suck your feet.
No.
That's not
During
bad.
the investigation into the murders that he committed, they interviewed 2. Not a single one had a bad word to say about
He's
him.
got the look. He's got the touch.
And
He's got the touch.
So this guy, Albert,
X Factor.
this
So
guy,
let's go through-
Marcel Pierpont, he was convicted of killing 23 people in his home in Paris during World War II. He is suspected of killing around 60. That's what they can link him to. Some estimates put it as high as 160.
Well, yeah, because he had a death factory in his
He
house.
had a death factory in his house. This guy, he was taking people during the collaboration government in World War II in France.
That's a fun revisionist way to put it. The collaboration government.
Yeah, the Vichy government. They were a collaboration government that was installed after the Nazis marched into Paris, and he was
Yeah,
trying
beat them with a bunch of their own bread. Took bread out of their fucking stalls and just hit them in the head. And they were like, "Oh, thank you, thank you." And they're just like, "Oh,
Yeah, a lot of Japanese over there, huh?
oh, thank
In
you."
France. Yeah.
And this guy had one hell of a scheme going. There were
Yes,
a
he
lot of
did.
people in this time that were Nazi-occupied Paris. There were resistance people. There were criminals that were trying to get out, trying to escape the Gestapo. There were, of course, plenty of Jews trying to get out of there. And what this guy would do is that he would take them into his apartment. He would tell them, all right, we're going to send you to Argentina. It's going to be safe.
Yeah,
We're gonna
sit
send you-
down, have a slice of bread, have some wine, huh? You sit there, you like?
You sort of sound like the guy from the new Star Wars movie there.
Yeah,
The guy
you
where
sound more like
Anakin,
Bazulba or
is it
Babolza.
Babolba?
Babolza. Yeah,
Do
that
I?
one.
Is
yeah.
he French?
It's no.
Oh.
No.
That's a major problem.
No, he's Middle Eastern without a doubt.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, he sounds like Israeli Jewish. But anyway,
Or French, whatever. I mean, you know, we're all one people.
So this guy, he would tell people he's sending them to Argentina through Portugal, but he told them, like, listen, Argentina has very strict rules about immigrants. You have to have Thai food and not typhoid.
Inoculate.
Yeah, you have to
gotta have their Thai food.
They
It's
gotta have
delish.
Thai food. You gotta bring a pad Thai with you if you want to get in.
Dish, my friends.
All right.
I don't know if we're gonna let that one happen anymore.
Yeah, I think you need to retool.
Yeah,
find
welcome
Yeah, let's
to
go
Get
back to the
Free,
kit.
my friend.
I've had enough.
Marcus is getting very upset, Henry. I'm not. I like it. I love what you're doing, but it's just Marcus. He's got all the dials. So if we want to keep on doing the show, we got to make him happy.
So he told them that he would have to give them typhoid inoculations, but really these shots were only filled with cyanide.
Just cyanide. But can we go back real quick?
We're gonna go back. We're
Yeah.
gonna start with this guy's early life. Well, let's start when he was a child. This guy had he had 2 out of the 3 on the serial killer triad. He tortured small animals to death constantly. He wet his bed. He wet his trousers without, at the drop of a hat.
I just how like every single person who'd ever met him in his whole life described him as a person with mental illness. They're all like, "Well, he's got a problem. Well, he's definitely got a problem. He definitely has a problem."
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they just bounced
Killing
him from
rats.
place to place to place.
classmate for sex. He was caught passing obscene photos to other students. This one I love. At age 11, he stole his father's revolver and fired it off in history class.
That's great.
Another time, he
kid.
staged a circus act at school, standing a friend against a door and throwing knives at
Yeah,
him.
I mean,
But the thing is, that kid didn't die. He was good at
Again,
throwing knives.
They just had an old idea of. I refuse to believe that he was charming and sophisticated. I refuse to believe it.
No,
He
what do
was
you mean?
He was a drooling maniac. He was a maniac.
He had
It was
some
just
pee in his pants, but he could throw a hell of a knife.
He just was saying funny things because he was just like, like, I'm not going to do the accent again.
No. Well, you have to figure out how to do it first.
I'm
I'm going to get you some cheese. You'll be
Put
able
some
to do
softness in it. You don't speak French.
No, I don't speak the Romance languages. No, but he basically, he was just kind of funny because he was so off balance. He must have just been because he was a blithering.
French comedy would be during this time.
He
I
had
mean,
the
their entire country is on the verge of war throughout his entire life.
He just looked like a normal person. It's like Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was saying ludicrous things to people over and over the place, but it's like he's got a trustworthy face and he's got a charming way of saying it. So it's like you kind of go along with it, but he obviously was covered in dirt everywhere he was going, just like touching himself, grabbing at people.
He was also, like many serial killers, he was a thief. And when he would go to visit his brother insisted on searching his pockets every time. Like before he left, he said, "All right, Marcel, you know what time it is. Take them out."
Take them out.
Take them out. Just give me the clock.
I did not steal anything, brother. I would never do such a thing.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah,
just
right?
a bunch
Yeah.
Not quite so grating.
Yeah. See, that's how I imagine
A little
he
more
talked.
sensitive to the human ear.
He just like checks his pockets all full of doorknobs from the house.
Yeah,
That was the
exactly.
other thing. It's like when he became a doctor, they put him in a hospital for kleptomania for like 2 weeks, and then he was fine.
Oh, and he was his life.
He's a real Winona Ryder when
a
it comes to that.
psychiatrist pronounced him an abnormal youth suffering from personal and hereditary problems which limit to a large degree his responsibility for his acts. He was in and out of psychiatric hospitals, in and out of prisons.
remember-
Sometimes he was able to convince the judge that he was insane, that he needed to go to prison, that he was criminally insane.
I've got to go.
Sometimes
I am just loosey goosey up there.
Right.
If there were actual nuts and bolts in my brain, they'd be falling out of my ears.
I'm sorry, Marcel. Did you steal the hinges off the door?
Sorry, buddy. They just
Okay.
so gold and pretty.
Just give them back. We're just gonna let you go.
One time when he was arrested for theft, he told the judge that he was mentally ill, but once he got to the hospital, he said that it was a momentary aberration caused by his preoccupation with a new invention, a suction machine designed to relieve constipation.
A suction machine.
Which is just a tube that goes up your fucking ass. He just loved that machine. This
With it.
guy is fucking
Can you just
amazing.
imagine what that machine looks like? A suction machine
It's just a-
designed.
It's just a tube to a vacuum machine connected to an old-timey bike. Where the guy just running the bike as hard as
But
possible.
then he forgot to put the bag on the back of it and he just gets covered in shit while he bikes.
I'm sorry, I've always used this machine for an hour today. I must be on empty.
I guess he is. That's sad.
So, of course, 1915, World War I breaks out. He volunteers for service in 1916 during the Second Battle of Aisne, I think. He was wounded and gassed, which can only further fuck up his brain.
Absolutely.
Like,
Sure.
Can only further fuck him up. Of course, he
Well,
was...
maybe it's like when you
But
get
his-
hit by a donkey and you go cross-eyed, like get hit by a donkey again, your eyes go back to straight. I mean, maybe this worked out for him.
Well, of course, he was sent to a hospital where he was arrested for theft, for stealing army blankets, morphine, wallets, photographs, letters.
This is what I'm saying. He's not even, because it's obvious. He's obviously got armloads full of
Yes.
shit, just like looking around.
The point of stealing letters. It's not your mother or
it's something
father
to steal.
writing
Something
you.
to steal. He's a kleptomaniac.
It's just something to steal.
Yeah, and so he convinced that judge that he was criminally insane. So they sent
fuck
him
that movie, The Bling Ring.
the bling ring.
The Bling Ring about
What's
those
that?
fucking chicks who stole all the things from Paris Hilton and whatnot. Everyone thinks they're some of the greatest kleptomaniacs of all time. They got nothing on Marcel.
No,
Absolutely, and I'm surprised you'd even bring up the bling
The
ring.
Bling
Yeah.
Ring. Oh, you got to see it. It's a great movie.
No, I will not see it.
Oh, I'm gonna make you fucking
I
see
will
it.
never see it.
When I fucking treat you like that one dude in Clockwork Orange, make your eyes stay open and duct tape your hands
Is
behind
this
your
a
head.
plan of yours?
No, I haven't thought about this for a while.
So of course he gets after he gets out of the mental hospital, they send him right back to the front lines.
because he volunteered again. He just like volunteered. It's like I've got to go. It's the romance of war. Huh?
I mean, if you're a notorious peer, if you constantly piss your trousers, what better place to be in than the front lines of World War I?
Marcel, my friend, you pee your pants, huh?
It's good. It's still a little bit more like
I don't know.
Babolba.
Yeah, it's
or
definitely
Babolba.
it's a lot more like episode 1. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's fine.
the Jewish stereotype.
Interesting. Are we being? Was that anti-Semitic on
I think
accident?
Absolutely
George
not.
Lucas is anti-Semitic.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, also racist against Asians.
Well, I've heard that
Why
the
is
new
that?
Star Wars was written by a Jew chained up in his shed in the back of his mansion.
Isn't that
which
something?
is why it
That's a
isn't very
theory, I
good because people can't work under those conditions.
No, they invent characters like Jar Jar Binks. That's not good.
So he
Anyway.
goes back to the front lines, decides he doesn't like it, shoots himself in the foot. Some people say he shot himself. I saw another account in which it said that he injured his foot with a grenade.
Grenade.
Yeah.
He
so-
grenaded himself in the foot.
yeah.
He's
I mean,
nuts.
he's nuts. He's fucking crazy.
Step on a nail, dude.
He volunteered to go to war twice. Both
Right.
times got himself kicked out of the war, then went back.
Yeah.
Right. Now I'm just gonna grenade myself in the foot.
However, in 1920, he decides, you know what I need to do? I should become.
It was easy back then.
It was easy. He went into an accelerated education program for war veterans. He completed medical school in 8 months.
8 months.
8 months.
8 months.
Yeah, and then he.
This was back in the day when being a doctor was more like being a mechanic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
And despite 2 criminal insanity rulings for past crimes, he received his medical degree in December of 1921
Absolutely.
and
mean,
began
you know.
his practice at Villeneuve-sur-Yonne. I apologize in advance to all of our French speakers for my pronunciation of the town names that are coming up.
I will not respond. I will not apologize for my accent because
good.
that's how it sounds to me.
well, let me just apologize for Henry Zabrowski's accent on behalf of the last podcast on the left.
He gained a reputation for dubious medical practices such as supplying narcotics, performing illegal abortions, and, of course, theft. He stole
course.
money from the town's treasury. He stole the bass drum from a local band.
He stole a bass
Yeah,
drum.
the bass drum thing was insane.
Well, just like it's just again, how do you be obvious when you're stealing a bass drum, and then also how bad was the band?
Yeah, how bad?
I mean, I get not that bad
'Cause
you
I
know,
think
they
he's-
needed the bass drum.
I think he stole things that he didn't like because he also stole a stone cross that he had deemed an eyesore.
But I also feel like there
Yeah.
are times where he like looks at stuff and he's just like, I think he's just the kind of guy who like walks around and he's just like, I could play the bass drum. I just need to get a bass drum. And he sees the bass drum in the street. He's just like, take the bass drum. And he just like takes it. He plays with it for 2 seconds. It's just like, bass drums suck.
This is hard. I mean, I would say, I guess it makes sense that he performed a lot of illegal abortions. He's certainly good at making things disappear, and he's
But
just you know-
technically, it's a needed service again.
yeah.
well, I mean, hell, what woman would want to be pregnant during a war?
Nazi-run France. That
It's a
sounds
difficult-
fucking horrible.
Yeah,
So, and
not
of
the
course-
worst thing he did. I would say that the illegal not the worst.
No,
Of
no,
all
no,
the
no.
things.
I'd say
I mean, stealing the bass
at this
drum.
point, stealing the bass
Yeah.
drum from that poor fucking band nerd.
Yeah.
as I said, because that's all he had in this life.
just my
that was
bass
his
drum.
fucking. That was his fucking equalizer in life. Is that he's
Yeah.
like, well, I could definitely play it. It's possible.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody took it. Oh,
Hey.
well, I guess I'll go back to being secretary of the chess club.
Oh, that's so sad.
I played bass drum in marching
This
band.
is what I'm saying. Look what it did for you.
Yeah.
Imagine if
Yeah.
someone stole your bass drum with the height of your learning how to play the bass
That would have
drum.
made you sad, right,
It made me
Marcus?
extremely sad.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, how am I supposed to be a dork and not get laid without my bass drum?
well, I
band-
moved to
band
the
kids-
Tritoms later on.
Oh, okay.
But band kids get laid all the time. They fuck each other. That's the whole
yeah.
point.
No, it's great. My
That's why you get into that.
First time I fingered a girl was on a band trip.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
You got
band
them
kids are
drummer.
sexual maniacs.
They have to be.
yeah, it's
Band
great.
kids?
Yeah, band
Isn't that
kids. My
something?
God, just a whole bunch of fucking mildly attractive teenagers
Everybody's
hanging out
just
with
rubbing
each other.
on each other.
Yeah. What instrument did the girl play that you fingered?
Clarinet.
Ah.
Should have gotten a blowjob.
All right,
Let's move on.
Of course,
I mean, that seems out of all the instruments, like clarinet. I mean, well, yeah. It's a woodwind?
if anything, you want to go for the trombone players.
Yeah, you want to get
The
somebody.
girls
want
who
someone-
really
you
know
want
how to
someone-
work their lips.
Yeah, the one who's like playing it wrong by sucking on it.
All right, well,
Yeah, the
listeners
woodwinds
who
are more about
play any-
woodwinds are more about breathing control.
Just let me know. You know,
She sucks so
listeners.
hard she can make that trombone play backwards.
Holy Lord. No, Marcus, you're just farting a whole bunch. Kind of fun. The human truth.
Pussy
Anyway,
comes over.
back to murder.
Back to murder.
death.
This guy, he also he spread bogus credentials all around town. He started printing slur campaigns against the other doctors in town
For no reason.
comparing himself to
They
the two,
won't give you free drugs, and they won't smell like piss.
comparing himself to the two elderly doctors. The flyers read, "Dr. Patois is young, and only a young doctor can keep up to date on the latest methods born of a progress which marches with giant strides. This is why intelligent patients have confidence in him."
This
Very
guy's
intriguing.
amazing.
Yep.
He is a brilliant man.
He began running advertisements that described him as an interne
What does that
at
mean?
one mental hospital where he had actually been an interne, which means a patient. So that
okay.
little accent mark on the E really made all the difference in the
Oh,
world.
interesting.
Yeah, so that was a nice little
What does the first
switcheroo
one
on
mean?
him. Intern.
Oh.
Yeah, it means an actual. The first one means he
so
worked
you mean
there.
to tell me he just erases a fucking an accent mark and
Yeah.
now he's working for the hospital?
That's what he
Absolutely.
did?
Yeah.
This is the problem with French. This is
Yeah.
why English is so complicated, so stuff like this can't happen.
Yeah, it was just a little dot that was the difference between him running the goddamn place or being locked up in the basement?
Yeah.
Wow. And people say words don't matter. That's amazing.
When one pharmacist complained of the near-fatal dose Patois described for a child, Patois replied, "What difference does it make to you anyway? Isn't it better to do away with this kid who's not doing anything in the world but pestering its mother?"
I mean, his mother was
Dad?
probably like, well, yeah.
When people say he killed his first victim, her name was Louise Delavaux, the daughter of an elderly patient. He had an affair with her in 1926. She disappeared, and neighbors later said they had seen Patois load a trunk into his car, closely resembling another trunk fished out of the river weeks later, filled with the dismembered, decomposed remains of a young woman who was never identified. Police investigated, but ruled that Louise was just a runaway.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Well, they
That
can't
happens
prove
all
it.
the
It's
time.
just a dismembered corpse. They just, they can't identify.
found in a
It's not like
trunk.
they had dental records back then in 1926.
Right, well,
I
no one
guess
had
that's
teeth.
true.
Yeah.
Maybe a little gum record, something like that.
Yeah, all the teeth are made out of wood.
Why don't you bite into this mud for a second? We're going to figure out how your gums are.
And so it's that same year that he decides he's going into politics.
Yeah!
This man is just a fucking. He is
I
the
love
Bo Jackson
He
of
is.
serial killers. He did it all.
It's everything. When he was running.
I mean, his political resume on page 8 times going back to the war. He doesn't mention grenading his foot off.
To get out
You
of
know,
it.
no.
None of
former
the time
doctor.
spent. Former doctor, former runner of a mental institution.
Yes, I mean, this
well, an
man,
intern. Not you didn't run
know,
the
you didn't
place.
still.
But yeah.
I mean, this resume, this political resume is through the roof.
Yep. When he ran for mayor, he hired an accomplice to disrupt a political debate with his opponent. When Patois finished speaking, his crony cut the power to the auditorium, blacked out the entire village, and started several fires.
I love it.
Damn.
It's sort of like I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I heard
They
that's
did
how
the talent
Barack
show.
Obama became senator in Chicago.
Isn't that
Yeah.
something that is that's a goddamn fact?
Chicago politics.
Chicago politics,
Yeah.
as it used to be and as it still was.
This guy also sort of has an Andy Kaufman type thing going on.
Yeah,
You know,
kinda.
it's really jokes on us.
And
you know?
he won by a landslide.
Oh, he crushed him.
Oh, yeah.
I could make some comparisons to a recent election we had here in New York City, but I am not doing it because I have lost another woman.
Bill de Blasio is not like this.
Blasio was never a fucking doctor. Never went to goddamn war.
Well,
Probably
why-
stole a bass drum. though.
All right.
Well, while
I mean,
some
who hasn't been tested to at least steal a glockenspiel?
A
'Cause I would
glockenspiel?
steal. Yeah, I'd love to steal one of those just from him, though. I would just take it from his hands.
What's a glockenspiel?
The bing, bada, ding, dong, gong, 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 bong, 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 bong.
I love that.
That
I totally
instrument?
know I know what you're talking about entirely. I really do.
Well, while some despised Patois as mayor, some called him the best mayor ever.
He's amazing.
And just loved him. After he went to jail numerous times for various frauds while he was mayor, including embezzling town funds, and after
He
being
just committed every crime. also
every
as mayor.
crime, and, he
again,
was
this
suspended
is
from
perfect.
mayor twice. After the second time, he decides, all right, I'm done being mayor. I'm going to run for the general counselor's office. He wins that. Then he's accused of stealing electricity from the village. He stole
Power. I mean, that's a great thing to steal. Again, Rob Ford. He reminds me of Toronto's
No.
current mayor, Rob Ford.
God,
It
he's-
reminds me of like Mr. Burns putting up like the blocking the sun thing.
Yeah,
You know, like,
exactly.
these guys nuts. He's
I
fucking
love
crazy.
the idea. I don't even know what that looks like to steal power. I just imagine he's in the living room, like fighting
just like-
lightning off his
You've
fingers.
never done that? No,
how
I've
do you-
definitely done that where it's just like we did it once with an abandoned house in Tallahassee. They left the power still going. You literally just plug shit into the outlets that are still going on. And you have it. He's probably standing out in his front lawn. He's got
Like
extension cords just
Yeah.
like running from the other. From
It's
the
like
fucking,
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation when Clark Griswold lights up his house. And they're like,
He's
nah,
like,
it is not
"Look
Christmas.
what I have made, and he's got all these like lit up reindeer in his front lawn. You just
Beautiful.
see the electricity meters just spinning.
Yeah, the town goes dark.
Of course, after he lost his seat, he decides, fuck it, I'm going to Paris and I'm going back to my old career as a doctor.
Gotta
There
do
we
that.
go. Sometimes you got to go back to where you started.
And despite, and of course, he had all these untrue credentials on his front door. The other physicians in town actually checked up on him and they said, listen, you got to take that down. That's
Yeah,
not
it's
true.
all fake.
And
You're obviously lying. He
was
must have
that-
been hilarious.
And
the
yeah,
only way
that's the
for
thing.
him to have made it this far is that he must have been the funniest dude on the face of the planet.
And he was a good-looking gentleman to boot. Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
He was a fairly he was a rough man.
Yeah.
He had definitely a rough, like rugged look about him. Bald, but still a charmer.
Well, you can imagine how hideous all the other monsters were in Paris and
Had
at that
to.
time.
And that's the thing, is that despite all of this, he had a huge clientele. He built a great reputation for himself. Like I said earlier,
Because he's just giving people free drugs. That
Yeah.
was the whole thing. Is that he's funneling drugs. He's doing abortions. He's doing all this horrible.
well,
shit.
he was known as a guy who treated poor families for free. He was just known as an all-around great guy. But then, in 1940, the Nazis arrived.
Oh man,
Uh-oh.
St. Thomas stand.
Yeah.
And so the Nazis arrived, and this is when the real killing begins.
Okay.
Because
'cause now he's
throughout
got
the
the
years,
reason.
throughout the years, he had been linked to many murders.
How
of
many
people
murders do we suspect him of having committed at this point?
around? At this point, we don't know. I don't know the exact number. How many murders he was convicted or that he was suspected
I
of?
mean, I suppose
up
if
to
you're
this
like a
point.
big pro-lifer,
I mean,
you would argue
I'm gonna
like
say,
probably
I just looked
150.
up Marcel Patois. He is not a good-looking man.
Let me see.
He is a nuts-looking man. He's got.
No, he's a good-looking Frenchman.
No, he's
this
not.
is the 1930s.
We'll do this. We'll look at it up later. We'll put it on the Facebook page.
Of course,
Let us
in
know what you think.
In 1940s France, and especially in Paris, when the Nazis moved in, there was a sizable resistance movement within France.
But
to
as my
fight
Opa
against the
often
Nazis.
told me, he often reminded me when a lot of Germans invaded France, they were greeted as liberators as well. Many people.
There was
That is a very interesting point of view. It sounds like it's the other side of the argument.
Yeah, that's not extremely true. There was
Well,
there was
it's
some
not
people.
true.
It was all fascist. The people who welcomed them as liberators were fascists and Jew haters. People who thought, of course, were Nazi sympathizers.
And there was a lot of Jew hate in France at the time, as we also then see
Yes.
when we did the Holocaust revisionism stuff. A lot of that Holocaust revisionist writing came out of France.
Yeah. And a lot of, I think there were somewhere around 13,000 Jews in Paris alone that were shipped off to Auschwitz. But some of the people who were able to be like kind of Jewy, but were able to pass for the time,
What
of
do you
course,
mean, kind of Jewy? Explain, kind of Jewy.
guys who didn't immediately look Jewish.
Okay, yes.
People who
Yeah.
didn't have the name like Bazagowitz.
Yeah.
Bazagowitz, the biggest titted Jew of all time. Trina Bazagowitz.
Where the term bazongas came from.
Isn't that something? Now I had no idea. They would say she had to staple two sheets together for a bra.
In other words, guys who were closing in on them.
The myth
Of Sadie Bazunga.
Sadie Bazungowitz, later known as Sadie Bazunga.
The biggest
Oh,
titted
man.
woman on
The only Jew the Germans loved. I believe Andrea Merkel
You could
is her
play
descendant.
with her tits for a week and not have seen the nipples.
So, of course, this is when his real scheme begins. He starts charging people 25,000 francs per person.
That's a bunch of money.
Yep. He had 3 accomplices that helped bring victims in. And these 3 accomplices didn't know that he was killing these people.
No.
Well, they said they didn't know that.
Yeah, they
he,
said
that he
they
was
said
killing
they
those
didn't
people.
know.
They were getting paid, so they were
yeah.
doing whatever.
Yeah, they were getting paid. And as far as they knew, these people were being shipped off to Argentina. His code name was Dr. Eugene. And the people that they were getting out were Jews, resistance fighters, and ordinary criminals. It said that because he would also get their possessions, free bonds, things like that, and of course the 25,000 francs.
Right.
It was said that, or they estimated that he made 200 million francs off of this operation.
I mean, he's a real Bernie Madoff, you know?
Yeah.
This guy is actually, you can compare this guy to modern day people that we know that have actually had power in our own society.
Oh, very much so. He's like a Bernie Madoff. He was
Rob Ford, Bernie Madoff. Fucking,
career criminal with just enough fucking charisma to keep getting pushed to the next level, keep getting pushed from like place to place. Nobody wants to deal with him because he's still kind of funny.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, among his early customers were his criminals were a big part of his clientele because these people were being chased by the Gestapo.
When that was
the
a part
Nazi
of his
secret
explanation
police.
after the fact, when he finally got caught, and he was just like, "I killed criminals, I killed Nazi sympathizers," and it's like, well, you killed whoever had 25,000 francs.
His early customers were 3 Parisian pimps and 3 prostitutes. Patois later branded all. He said that these people needed to die. The another pimp, Joseph Peresci, he made his dead-end journey with his mistress. At first, before he just dumped the bodies in the river.
Yeah,
that's what he started off with. And numerous dismembered victims were dragged from the river in all of those years. The remains included 9 heads, 4 thighs, and many other mutilated pieces.
At no point, though, right? At no point there's sexual satisfaction here, right?
No,
his motivation is all greed.
It's all money.
It's all money, right?
This is we're going to get into that a little bit because they say that it's all money, but some evidence points that there may be some sadism involved.
He's
done
definitely
some
shit.
sadism.
These are just the surface level crimes. He's done so much shit
right.
that you cannot even imagine what the motives are.
Yeah,
like this has been forever. It just seems like his brain's like a tinker toy. It's just going back and forth, just going like it's like steal, rape, kill, murder, get money. Steal, it's just like that's all he did.
Yeah, I'm sure he's extremely impulsive as well, which helps you win a fucking debate in a political setting.
Yeah.
Yep. In 1941, he bought a house, and that is where he began incinerating the bodies or dissolving them in quicklime.
I want to see. By the way, I'm sorry. I just want to see the him just demanding to go first. At the debate.
I will go first.
I must go first. Why are you so serious about going first? Nothing, no reason.
No reason at all.
And so on March 11th, 1944, that's when the stench became too much for the neighbors to bear, and there was extreme amounts of. I mean, this is
this is smelly.
France is smelly. This is also during a wartime. I mean, you can imagine the stench of the area. Death is all around.
Well, this
outstink that stink. It had to be pretty smelly.
There was complete peace in France at this time. The French had surrendered to the Nazis 4 years earlier.
Okay,
so
they're just hanging.
Yeah, they're just hanging out at this time. And of course, there was smoke billowing from the house. They sent firefighters in to figure out what was going on. They soon came back out. The chief told, "Mark ahead of you."
Yeah.
The officers went downstairs where a coal-fed stove was found burning full blast, a human arm dangling from its open door.
Not even carefully put in there.
Yeah, you got to get that arm in there.
Nearby, a heap of coal was mixed with human bodies and fragments of several dismembered bodies. In Patois' garage, people found a large heap of quicklime mixed with human remains, including a recognizable scalp and jawbone. A pit had been dug in the stable filled with more quicklime and corpses in various stages of decomposition. On the staircase leading from the courtyard to the basement, police found a canvas sack containing the headless left half of a corpse, complete but for its foot and vital organs. Police cataloged 33 pounds of charred bones, 24 pounds of unburned fragments, 11 pounds of human hair, including more than 10 whole scalps, 3 garbage cans full of pieces too small to identify. Based on the substantial pieces, Paul said the oldest victim was a 50-year-old man, the youngest a 25-year-old woman. Examining the death house,
lot of work.
He did that. This is what the movie The Burbs is based on.
With
Tom Hanks. I mean, I want to see the I think The Burbs probably represents the neighbor's perspective of Mr. Marcel fairly perfectly. Honey, I think he's burning bodies.
No, in his perspective, it's like he's the aviator. Like he's running around. He's a genius.
Police noted basement sinks large enough for draining corpses of blood. And this last detail is why I think that there's some form of extreme sadism involved in this, at least with some of his victims. They found a soundproof octagonal chamber with wall-mounted shackles and a peephole centered in its door.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that would be
absolutely.
it.
That is that right there. When you have a whole room developed to it, it's like having, like, this is my comic book room. It's like,
Right.
oh, you must like comic books.
Wine cellars. That's something that often people have in the basement
When you're
of
an
a house.
enthusiast of something.
Right. Cigars, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or just shackles on the wall.
So at 1:30 a.m., a telegram finally arrived from Paris police headquarters. It read, "Order from German authorities, arrest lunatic."
From the Germans.
From the Germans.
4 years
finally, I
previous,
get the
they
title I
were
wanted.
worshiping Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Mayor,
here's-
Doctor, Dangerous Lunatic.
Yeah.
Go get him.
Nah, I've done it all.
Don't laugh at him. And he's hilarious. I mean, when you're going to talk to him, he's going to say some jokes. He's going to be very charming, but just get him.
And he
try to
just steals the detective's badge. He's like, now I am the detective. Isn't that how this works?
Here's the interesting thing about it, and I think the very ironic thing about it is that this guy was killing Frenchmen wholesale. He was not killing German collaborators. He was not killing any sort of Nazis, but because the German Gestapo was searching for this guy,
he became a hero immediately.
yeah, French patriots said, like, all right, then this guy must be killing Jews, especially when they found out that the Gestapo had tortured and imprisoned this guy from May 1943 to January 1944. So these people thought automatically, all right, this guy is a hero. He is killing collaborators. He is killing Nazis. We're not going to put a whole lot of effort.
He was killing Nazis.
But then he joined up with them.
Yeah, he joined up
escape,
with him.
yeah.
Yeah. He hid with some friends. He grew his beard out, and he joined one of the resistance groups.
Isn't that something? Very similar career arc to Cat Stevens.
But also, to be honest, it is exactly the career thing as Ted Bundy. This guy is fucking Ted. This is very
it's
close
very-
to
He's the
Ted
French
Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
Except a
He's
lot
similar.
better.
He is much, much better. Ted Bundy never actually succeeded at anything.
No.
No. And like, I mean,
What was the name? This guy changed his name multiple times as well. What was it?
Yeah, the
Henrik
last one was
something?
Henry.
Henry Lettier.
Like Lettier.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's no proof of this name change. You could just back in the day, you could just say
You
that
could say
this is
whatever you
my
want.
name,
Yeah.
and people would just
Yeah, the
believe
burden
you.
of the truth was on you.
Yeah.
Was you just be in the room saying your name?
and finally, after some of the resistance fighters they started to catch what was going on with Pechois. Because
Because he's probably being freaky, hanging out with the Friends of Occupation movie. He's just like, let me. He's a dentist because half his teeth are gone.
So after this is after, like, it kind of goes through two eras, because after he joins the resistance fighters, that's when the resistance starts winning against the Nazis, and the collaboration as the Vichy government starts to collapse. So after that, the newspaper Resistance, they publish an article about Pechois saying, like, listen, this guy is not who he says he is.
That's right. Yeah, they
He
undercover it. Yeah.
They uncover it. They say he's not who he says he is. He's actually a murderer. We need to find this guy. And Pechois sends a letter to his lawyer who represented him in one of the narcotics cases. And he said, this is he called them, quote, filthy kraut lies. And since the police were in contact with the lawyer, they're like, all right, this guy's still in Paris. We've got to find him. And October 31st, on Halloween, he was recognized at a Paris metro station and arrested.
Even though he was dressed as a hot dog.
Yeah.
Isn't that sad? Just trying to get a nice job.
Among his possessions, francs and 50 sets of identity documents.
He
And
was
that's
so
the
rich.
problem.
All
You
the
know?
identification.
It's having
Yeah.
all the different IDs is always a problem.
Yeah. And so at the trial begins, and he tells his defense is that, of course, he's completely innocent. All of these people are collaborators, but he said that he first became aware of the corpses in February 1944 after he was released from Nazi custody. He